Good morning, everybody. Pull up, share this amongst your network. It's time for contracting chatter. Pull out your contracting notebooks. Oops. Mm. I got hair all over the place. Because over here, we do not believe in growing alone. We grow in a network. And this morning, I was supposed to talk to you about some items on the Federal Registry, and I don't have my notes in front of me. And that's okay. I'll probably go live later on today and talk about those items on the registry. I want to talk to you about some upcoming podcast episodes. If you follow me on any of my platforms, you will see I posted my podcast episode schedule, and you will also see coming out schedule of classes and some other things streaming from me over the next few days. You know what? My son borrows my phone stand and he put it back, and he didn't put it back the right way. And my phone is wider than his. And I'm trying to set up my phone so I can stream. Oh, there we go. On my phone as well as on my computer. Until I get a new computer, I can't download a key. You know what? Technology is great, but this bias towards Android is annoying. You know what I mean? Androids are great devices. And this bias towards Android is getting on my nerves, okay? And we're live on TikTok. Yes. We're live on TikTok. I normally don't go live on TikTok on Tuesdays, but whatever. I decided, and I'm going on screen on my other platforms since I can't use my beautiful banner anywhere else. You know, I'll just go live. Anywho, so I dropped my podcast schedule on all of my social media platforms except for TikTok. I'll put it up on TikTok later. Um, I will later on today post a schedule of classes. The schedule of classes. My next coming class is called Stages of Government Contracting. There we go. And basically, a lot of people go into government contracting and don't even understand that there are stages. And besides not understanding the stages, they don't understand what each stage entails and what the responsibility of the contractor in each stage is. So, the next training class I have coming out is Stages of Government Contracting. I'm doing a master class entitled The Benefits of Contracting. I'm doing a 4-week training on beginners contracting. I am going to talk about SAM's registration. Now, this is something I haven't done since I started my business. However, 2024, I'm talking about laying foundation. And one of the foundations I'm finding is people aren't actually, good morning, Sebastian. People aren't even laying a proper foundation when they're going through SAMs. The new registration is a little different. In the old SAMs, you can go through and keep going. In the new SAMs, if you don't go through and if you can't complete the three-part match, they boot your whole registration. You have to start all over again. Or rather, you don't have to start all over again. You have to figure out why you were removed, fix it, and then resubmit. And trying to figure out why you were removed in the first place can be irritating. If you just do it right in the first place, you can avoid that and you can avoid it and keep moving. So I'm doing a multi-part training on that. I have a event coming up in September. September 17th through the 20th. The last day of the event is VIP only. So if you don't register for VIP, the event is 2 days for you. If you register for VIP, it's 3 days. Where we're talking about business and contracting. Matter of fact, that's the name of the event, business and contracting. So today you're going to see me put that out. So there's a lot of things going out. So yesterday I put out my podcast schedule. Friday I dropped an episode on audit readiness. Next week is the 3 types of contractors. The week after that, I'm talking about proposal compliance. And on that episode, I have joining me Monica Morgan. She is an LT&A staff member. And then the episode after that is proposal compliance. And for those who want to wait until we talk about the proposal, I'm going to tell you from my 20 plus years in government contracting, those who only focus on the proposal very rarely win. Those who focus solely on the proposal are those individuals, quite frankly, who very rarely win the proposal. And if you win, do not perform well on contract. There is more to government contracting than just the proposal. Point blank, period, in a discussion, and I will argue you down over it. The proposal isn't even the beginning of government contracting, and it isn't the end. There are multiple pieces. And one thing I heard when I started in my consulting business and I talked to a contracting officer, one of his biggest complaints was that new entrants, small businesses, could not submit a bill. So he couldn't pay them. And there is a federal statute that really tells the government that they can't tell them how to invoice you. They can't tell you how to invoice them. And they kept rejecting the bill. And then I'm going to go here. When they reject the bill, they actually tell you what to do to correct the bill. So how arrogant are you that they tell you what's wrong with the bill and you still submit the bill wrong? He said he rejected the bill 3 or 4 times until they submitted a bill that was correct enough for him to pay, but it was still an incorrect bill. But yet and still, people only want to talk about proposals. I want to let that seep in. You want to talk about a proposal to win a contract, but you don't want to take up learning and you don't want to take a class. You don't want to invest in systems so you can get paid for the contract you just won. I want somebody to make that make sense. I'm going to sip on my coffee for a second. Somebody make that make sense. Respect the industry. And that goes for anything, but this morning I'm particularly talking about government contracting. One of the keys to government contracting is respecting the industry. One of the keys to government contracting is understanding that there are steps, state, and stages. One of the keys to government contracting is understanding your position and your role. One of the keys to government contracting, and if you haven't picked up on the redundancy, that's what my book that's out, Keys to Government Contracting. I'm actually rewriting it because there were some things I left out of the book that I wanted to put in the book. But if you're talking about getting a grant, if you're talking about running a contract, you have to do certain things. And one of those things is having a system that can invoice the way you're supposed to invoice to get paid. I don't understand this thing. People don't want to get paid. Hey, Vaughn, how are you doing? I want to get paid for my work. And one of the biggest complaints the contracting officer had was they wouldn't submit a proper bill. And I'm gonna go here. I don't even want the person that I'm working for telling me how to do a bill. I want to step up and step out in excellence. I want them to say, this person have this stuff together so much, I don't want to talk to anybody else. I want to give more work to them. This is how we should do all things. My grandmother told me, when you step out in the world, you should step out in the world in a way that when you walk in the room, they don't say, oh Lord, they say, there she comes. You leave a powerful impression when you walk in the room. You can't control whether they like you or not, but you can control how well they respect you. And one of the ways you can one of the ways you can get a person's respect is by decreasing the amount of work that they have. Learn how to submit a bill. I'm just saying, that was one of his, he must have talked about that bill thing. I was like, that's not what we here for, but thanks for sharing that. And I used that. Hey, Nam, how are you doing? That's just one of the things he talked about at nauseum. They don't learn how to submit bills. Now, I'm going to also say this. If you're going into government contracting, expect to spend money on education. Period, point blank in the discussion. And if you work with somebody like me, I'm going to show you how to recoup all the money that you spend in your rates. That's what I do. I help you do that. Because if you build out billing rates, if you build out bid rates, you will recover all of your indirect costs. So there is no such thing as spending money that you cannot recover, except for unbilled costs. That's another conversation for another day, but that's not what we're here for this morning. Stand out in excellence. That's what I'm telling you. And if you set up your billing correctly, it's a matter of the invoice comes in, it populates, you're performing a check and balance. I don't know why people think computers replace the human mind, because I have seen more incorrect bills, drinking my coffee, because somebody didn't perform the check and the balances. and you did not recover all the money you were supposed to recover. And there is a nice little clause that says if you do not recover all of your costs from the government within a certain amount of time, you forfeit those costs. You forfeit that revenue and you forfeit those profits. So you really want to make sure that you have your billing in place. And there we have it. I'm going to need my money. Run me my money. Because guess what? I can't pay bills if I don't have my money. I can't go to the power company and say, you know what, I didn't invoice the government correctly. They're going to say that's nice and my lights are still going to be off. I can't buy shoes for my children and go to the cash register and say, you know what, I didn't submit that invoice properly, so the government didn't pay me. They're going to say that's nice and they're going to take them shoes back. Stand up, stand out in excellence. Because let me tell you something. When the government comes back and send an auditor to verify that all the money that they paid you was paid out correctly, and you cannot sustain those costs, they're going to want that money back, plus penalties and interest. And government math is worse than Common Core. Oh my God. Because they charge in penalties and interest from the day of the transaction until the day that they catch it. So if you perform the work today, but they don't catch it until the year of our Lord 2030, which is 6 years from now, that's 6 years plus worth of penalties and interest. That one right there. So that $200, when they get finished, is like $1,000. That you're going to either write them a check or they're going to take off the top of the next bill if you're still doing government contracting. And for those of you who say, well, I'll just shut down my business, they will seize your assets. I'm just, They will give you your money now. They just have better ways of collecting their money because they know the rules. Do you know the rules? And that's the point. When you work with me, you will know the rules. And then you're going to make sure the bills are there. You're going to make sure that you're walking in excellence. They're going to make sure that when you walk in the office with that auditor, you're not going to tell them anymore. You see, I teach the rules on the. You see, I teach the rules. Let me talk to you for a second. Because I'm an auditor, a compliance auditor, and I've worked for one of the Big 10 in government contracting. I've seen it all and I've done it all. So I teach my clients ABC 1, 2, 3. The problem most small businesses have is that they're taking training from people who were never in my position, who were never government contractors, or they're looking at the SBA to train them. And a lot of these trainers at SBA were never government contractors and never worked in the industry. I'm just going to put it out there. Can I just put it out there? They were never government contractors and never in the industry. A lot of these experts, because I've spoken on their panels, matter of fact, one of them, I used to be invited to her Clubhouse panel until she kept saying stuff wrong and I kept correcting her and I pulled out the regulation. And I think she blocked me from her room. I didn't mean, yes, I meant to do it because you're not going to just keep putting out false information. But a lot of these experts out here, how can somebody teach you government contracting in 6 weeks and only charge $127? Because they don't know. Now, I have some low cost, low barrier classes, but you have to invest, period. And a lot of these rules are written in legalese because they written in legalese because they're laws. And some of these rules should not be interpreted by you, the business owner. Some of these rules need to be interpreted by a consultant who has worked with these rules for 20 some years. Some of these rules I don't even interpret. I reach out to my power partner who is an attorney and I say, okay, this is what I believe it says. I need you to verify it. So the rules, that's how I teach. I break it down as far down as I can get it. But some of these rules can only be taught at a middle school level. They don't exist at an elementary school level. And they only exist at a middle school level. Some of these rules are simplistically complicated. And I know that sounds like a contradiction, but they're simplistically complicated because, and I'm putting it like this, the simplicity is, it is what it is. Put on this hat. You as a taxpayer want somebody to be accountable for how every dollar is spent. And you get angry when you read these and you hear these news stories about these $200 toilet seats and these $150 hammers. Now, come in as a business owner doing government contracting and you're looking at all these layers of rules. Well, that's why you have all these layers of rules, because as a taxpayer, you want accountability. But as a business owner, you don't want to read the rules. And then every time, and we're just going to put it out there, we have disingenuous and dishonest people out here. Every time somebody gets caught doing something, that's another loophole that has to be closed. So that's another layer of laws and regulations and compliance that gets tacked on. That is why, I love to read the legislative history of things. That is why the certification, the minority certification program, has so many levels of verification to it now. Because when it came out, matter of fact, my manager used to work for DCAA, which is Defense Contract Audit Agency. He was a part of the, he was a part of the audit that uncovered the big fraud behind that, where they had a black man listed as the owner of the company. But when they did the audit and they really dug down deep, he was the owner in name only. His name wasn't on the bank accounts. His name wasn't on anything. They just propped up as a black man as the owner to get access to those contracts. But when you delve into the legislative history, and I believe I have this training on my YouTube channel. If it's not there, I'm going to dig around for it and repost it. When you dig around in the legislative history, that was one of the reasons why they didn't want to pass the certification, because the fraud is there. Okay, we'll talk. But that was one of the reasons why they didn't want to pass it. If you delve into the legislative history, it was too easy, just like the women-owned certification. Husbands was putting wives' names on the business, but that's the only place it was there. Only place it is. So now in the women-owned certification, you have to prove that your name is on the bank account. You have to prove that you funded the business. We're going to go there. You have to prove that as the female owner, you funded the business, and you have to show that the money came out of a bank account with your name on it to go into the business bank account. Because every time somebody commits fraud, there's another level of compliance put on there. So government contracting is simplistically complicated, but it's simplistic. Know the rules and abide by the rules. It's just that simple. So that's my spiel for this morning on contracting chatter. Learn the rules of the industry you're trying to work in. Point blank, period. There are keys to government contracting. That is the name of my book. It's up on Amazon. I believe I reposted it up on Amazon. I had to take it down to change the cover. If you want a hardback book, I have a link in my bio. You can go there. I'm changing publishers because I didn't like the way this book looked when it came out. I didn't like it. I'm writing the second edition of the book because there were some things I left out of the book that I'm adding. Today, I'm putting out a list of the training classes I'm doing. One of them is stages of contracting, and whether you're going for grants or you're going for government contractor, because whether people understand this or not, nonprofits are government contractors. Especially if you're applying for anything on grants.gov. You need to understand how to put together bid rates. You need to understand what the government is asking you for, which is why I have a whole class called Decoding the RFP. You need to know how to read a request for, you need to understand how to read the request for a proposal in order to respond to it, which is why my upcoming episode on my podcast is really, really on time, because I'm talking about proposal compliance. Because a lot of proposals get kicked out and booted out because you're not answering what they're asking for. A proposal is not an exercise in creative writing. Period. In the discussion. If they want you to talk about your experience, they don't want you to go back to when your grandmother was baking biscuits. They don't want to hear that. They don't care. And some people want to write long paragraphs about stuff that don't answer anything that's in the RFP. No, they don't want to do it. They don't want to hear it. They don't care. And food for thought before I log out, the RFP is a legal document. So you better understand what you're reading. And with that, I am logging off for this morning's edition of Contracting's Chatter. I go live every day at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I typically only go live on TikTok Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, but I decided to go live this morning just because I decided to go live. So I'm going live tomorrow on TikTok because that's just my regularly scheduled time. I'm hosting a masterclass on the power of government contracting. So be on the lookout for that. I have a 3-day intensive in September here in Charlotte. So when you see that, check it out. This is going to be great for your business because we're talking about business structure. We're talking about business credit. We're talking about business financing, because a lot of business systems, a lot of people have businesses that aren't even set up right. I'm going to say that again. A lot of people have businesses that aren't even set up right. And it falls out when you try to go to do contracting. Your businesses are non-compliant. Now, I'm just going to put it out there and hurt your feelings. Your business is non-compliant. And with that, I'm closing out this morning's edition of Contracting Chatter. I'm your host, Luciana Turner. I am your Chief Compliance Officer and your contracting specialist. Join me tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another installment. Keep something in mind. A stressed mind cannot create. So when you find yourself being frustrated by anything that's going on in your business, walk away from it. We're getting into the spring here. We're in the U.S. where I'm broadcasting from. Go outside, walk away from it, because when you decompress, you will find that the ideas flow. Period. In the discussion. And that is when you will find the answer to your problems. So I will see you tomorrow morning. You can catch the replay on my YouTube channel, LT&A Consulting Group. And with that, I will see you tomorrow. Have an amazing day.